Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving deep into one of the most interesting character in Wuthering Waves, which is Qiuyuan. As we all know, we can actually play Qiuyuan on the story, and that means we got the information about his kit. Now, when people first saw him in the trailers, a lot of players assumed he was going to be just another sub-DPS. You know, one of those characters who looks flashy, sound poetic, and then ends up being benched after a week. So if you're going to ask me, so is Qiuyuan secretly broken? My answer will be not exactly. But is he way stronger than most people think? Well, absolutely. So in this video, we're going to talk about Qiuyuan's kit, his strengths and weaknesses, and is he actually future-proof? Let's go and talk about that. Our first topic of discussion will be who exactly is Qiuyuan. Qiuyuan is a 5-star arrow sword resonator who mainly function as sub-DPS. He's not your big burst character like Jinzi or other characters. Instead, his role focuses on steady consistent damage while also providing echo skill buff and even crit damage boost to his teammates. At first glance, that might not sound too crazy, right? But once you actually break down his kit, it becomes clear that Qiuyuan is not built to carry. He's built to enable teammates. He's like that one quiet person in your group project who doesn't talk much but ends up carrying everyone's workload behind the scene. That's Qiuyuan, quiet, efficient, and far more impactful than people initially realize. Let's make this video simple, since this is not a guide. Okay, Qiuyuan's gameplay revolves around a mechanic called Surster's Soliloquy. Think of it as a resource bar that fills up as you attack or dodge. Once you collect enough Soliloquy, you can unlock new effects or states that change how he fights. In short, the more you fight, the stronger and more supportive Qiuyuan becomes. But here's the important part. All of these are connected to echo skills, which is a type of damage that not every character in Wuthering Waves focuses on. That's where things get interesting. Well, let's be honest, Qiuyuan isn't a universal buffer like Verena, Shorekeeper. He's not going to fit into every single team. And he's not going to instantly make your DPS double their output like Shorekeeper. However, his design screams long-term investment. Right now, his main value comes from giving teammates a 50% echo skill damage amplification through his outro skill. That's already huge for characters who rely heavily on their echo skill like Prolova or Galbrena. And as more characters in future updates start dealing echo skill type damage, which is a trend we've seen seeing with Fusion, Havoc, or even Arrow units, Qiuyuan's value is only going to increase. So in a way, Qiuyuan is kind of like Wuthering Waves' version of horizontal investment. He might not skyrocket your current roster's power right away, but as your character collection grows, his worth quietly goes up. That's why some players compare him to Lupa rather than Yuno or Brad. It's not about overwhelming raw damage, but rather amplifying a very specific niche, in this case which is echo skills. The reason Qiuyuan is so strong isn't because he has a highest number, it's because of how he multiplies the number of others. Let's take Galbrena for example. She's a fusion DPS who deals a ton of echo skill damage. Pair her with Qiuyuan and suddenly her entire rotation gets supercharged. The 50% skill damage amplification from Qiuyuan's outro plus the 30% echo skill damage from Bamboo's shade and stack beautifully. That is not flashy, but it's brutally effective. The same applies to Prolova, who also scales heavily with echo skill and resonance skill damage. Qiuyuan's buff directly benefits her playstyle, giving her smoother rotation and more damage uptime. Now, if you don't have characters like Galbrena or Prolova, Qiuyuan won't feel nearly as impactful for your account. That's one of his biggest weaknesses. His strength is tied to who you pair him with. So, if your roster is still developing or are you a newbie, Qiuyuan might not be your best immediate pick. But if you're someone who already has a well-built team with characters that scale off echo damage, aka Prolova or Galbrena, Qiuyuan might become your secret weapon. But you can actually get him right now even though if you don't have Galbrena or Prolova, but if you're thinking about pulling them in the future. So if we're talking about raw numbers, Qiuyuan's personal damage sits somewhere between an okay sub-DPS. The raw numbers of Qiuyuan is not that impressive if you compare him to other sub-DPS in the game right now. What makes him stand out though is his crit synergy. His Resonance Liberation, which is called Sundering Strike, increases the team crit damage based on how high Qiuyuan's own crit rate. So for every 1% crit rate over 50%, your team gains 2% crit damage capped at 30%. That might sound small for other players, but it's an incredibly consistent team buff, especially if you build Qiuyuan properly with high crit rate stats. And since his attack naturally fill with soliloquy and cycle energy fast, he keeps this buff active quite reliably. Now let's be fair, Qiuyuan isn't perfect. For one, he's not an easy plug and play unit. If you just throw him to a random team without character who rely on echo skill, his buff won't do much. Well, secondly, his skill ceiling is pretty high. To get value out of him, you need to manage your soliloquy properly. Time your Ink Splash of Mind window and maintain your rotation cleanly. And third, he's not a burst buffer. His buff lasts long, but they don't give that explosive damage spike that some players love to see. So if you're expecting him to instantly boost your DPS by 200%, that's not what he does. It's more about slow, consistent value over time and that kind of power that doesn't look flashy in one big hit, but adds up massively over the course of a fight. Here's where the discussion gets really interesting. As Wuthering waves keep expanding, we're seeing more and more characters whose kit rely on echo skills or echo-related effects. We've already seen this trend with Galbrena and Prolova. Qiuyuan's designs seem to be future-proofed for that direction. His echo skill buff, his crit synergy, and even his outro effect all target a part of the combat system that's slowly becoming more relevant over time. So even if Qiuyuan doesn't dominate the meta right now, his value is likely to increase with every new release that interacts with echo damage. That's why I said earlier that Qiuyuan is a horizontal investment. He's not going to carry your early game or make your account explode in power, but he's quietly grows stronger as the game evolves. And that's something you can say for every character. So, is Qiuyuan secretly broken? Not exactly. But is he way stronger than most people think? Well, absolutely. He's not that kind of unit that shines in damage showcases or one-shot clips. His strength comes from how seamlessly he fits into a certain team archetype and how he elevates those units over time. Qiuyuan rewards players who understand synergy, rotation, and composition. And as the game keeps evolving, it's only going to get better. So if you have characters like Galbrena or Prolova or other future echo scaling resonator, Qiuyuan is absolutely worth considering. But if your roster is still growing, it might be better to wait until his niche becomes more relevant. Well, either way, that's about it for today's discussion on Qiuyuan. What do you guys think? Is he an underrated gem? Or do you guys think his design is too niche for the current meta? Well, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. And if you enjoyed this kind of breakdown, don't forget to drop a like and subscribe for more Wuthering Waves discussion and analysis. And this is Quirk signing off.